We've heard a lot about problems about bins, about problems about transport, indeed problems about housing. Has anything got better since the start of COP?
No, to be honest with you, after our conversation a couple of weeks ago, things have just stayed basically the same, only we've got a strike added on top of that, and a council leader who, marches saying that we're pro-environment while walking past piles of rubbish ourselves, so it's not got better at all. In fact, the people of Glasgow have been very let down by the fact that this council's just not ran it properly.
How have they not run it properly? What could they have done to try and make sure that the streets were cleaner?
They should have got investment into the front line in Glasgow. We need investment in this city. Years and years of local government budgets being cut has resulted in this situation. They should have also negotiated with the unions. We've had a massive strike this week. The fly tipping and overflowing bins has been horrendous in Glasgow as it is, but it's been even worse this week because of that. So they could have negotiated with the unions, made sure they had an acceptable pay offer to then try and make sure we can get moving forward. But that's not been the case at all here, and instead Glasgow's been let down.
Have you got the impression that world leaders, that dignitaries and delegates who've all come here have got the best that Glasgow has had to offer?
I think most of them have, because a lot of the places down at the SEC and the different zones that are going on does look nice and clean, because the council has made sure they prioritised that. The difference is most of the Glaswegians who are walking about there now haven't been able to see that. Instead, what they've had is, transportation issues. I had to come in a taxi this morning because I couldn't get public transport because of how bad it is to come into an environment conference. That's the kind of issues that we're facing here in Glasgow for ordinary Glaswegians. So most delegates won't have been seeing any of this stuff, but most Glaswegians are.
So really this is a tale of two Glasgows. What we're seeing is that people who've come in perhaps fancy jets, private jets, convoys of cars, they're all fine. But for the ordinary people here, they've had a really tough time of this conference.
Yeah, nothing has changed at all. They've managed to clear up the streets for Joe Biden flying in, but then when the leader of the council is marching through the streets on Saturday, we're seeing fly tipping yet again right in front of the march that's going right past. That's the scenes that we're now seeing in Glasgow. It is a tale of two cities, and it's because of how Glasgow City Council and the Scottish Government have both been able to organise this conference. It's made sure that the SEC's been nice and clean, while places where I stay in the East End of Glasgow just looks the exact same as always.
It's interesting when we talk about big events like this, we often talk about the Olympics and the legacy that they leave. Will COP leave a legacy for Glasgow, and will it be an important one? Will it be a positive one?
I think in terms of the conference, it will leave some sort of legacy. People know about climate change. They're really keen to take climate action. I was at an event last week with school children, and it was really inspirational. I signed a children's charter here in Glasgow to try and make sure that we tackle climate change. So I think that legacy is still going to exist. The difference is the investment that we've seen in terms of frontline services down the SEC, we now need to see rolled out right through Glasgow, so then ordinary people can get the benefits of what Joe Biden and other world leaders managed to get when they came here.
Now, I've seen how clogged the roads have been, I've seen the traffic problems, I've seen a little bit of those public transport problems as well. At what point can we see those issues finally being solved, or is this just an intractable problem?
It's just an issue that Glasgow's faced for years. Delegates, this again goes back to the tale of two cities kind of thing. Delegates can get free bus travel, delegates can get free travel passes and things like that. This is stuff we've been arguing for in Glasgow for years. The Oyster card system that you have in London, we don't have that in Glasgow. We don't have anything like that that resembles it at all, yet delegates can get it for free. So we need to make sure that these kind of things that came into place, the Scottish Government then gives Glasgow City Council the power to make sure that that happens right throughout.
And just finally here, we're looking at the broader political context of Scotland. There's been some criticism of the SNP in recent months, of the Greens seemingly U-turning on a number of issues in the Scottish Parliament. How stable do you think this Scottish Government is as a whole, and what can we look forward to in the next few years in the run-up? I know it's 4 years away, but the next Scottish election.
Well, it's completely shambolic. We've now got a Green Party who's in government that's arguing with Greenpeace while sticking up for Nicola Sturgeon, while Nicola Sturgeon's silent. That's the situation we have in Scotland. This is not a stable government. This is a government that's got extremists in it with the Greens and who are not actually focusing on the day-to-day issues. So I think for the next 4 years, ordinary Glaswegians, ordinary people in Scotland, working class communities who have been left behind by the SNP will start to look at the Conservatives as the real alternative to try and build that different Scottish government and that different kind of Scotland.